And he provides an answer to all this through the Apostle Paul with an illustration of nature. Okay? How does the resurrection work? Well, Paul says, take a seed. Just take a seed. Okay, it might be a flower seed or a grass seed. It could be a seed of barley or wheat or corn. Now plant that seed in the ground. Put it in the ground, close the earth over it. What happens? The seed actually dies. It does, and it decomposes, and its elements break down into the earth. And after a period of time, you look, and what do you see? You see a seedling sprouting above the earth, right? So that's the new life that's come out of the seed that has died. Well, this is the way that life, basic life, is sustained on earth by God. Summer, winter, seed time, and harvest. And Paul's point here is that God has written into nature the principle of the resurrection. Without death, there is no life. So every time you see a new grass shoot coming up, every time you see a new sapling grow on a tree or some sort of seedling come out, that's the Creator saying, there's the evidence for the resurrection. And you see these things around the world and around our created order all of the time. They're pointing to a greater truth, a spiritual reality. And even Jesus himself used this illustration when he talked about the necessity of his own death. He said in John chapter 12, verse 24, "Truly, truly, I say to you, unless a grain of wheat falls into the earth and dies, it remains alone. But if it dies, it bears much fruit." And you see here, Jesus is saying, it's necessary for me to die in order to bear fruit to salvation. And if he did not die, that fruit would never come forth. The same applies to our own bodies. We can't be raised unless we die. The only exception, of course, is being those who are alive, who remain alive when the Lord returns, who will be instantly transformed. But for the most part, people will die first. Believers will die first. So when we look at this illustration, the seed and of nature, our bodies aren't really buried nor cremated. They're planted. They're planted. And this is actually a biblical thought. And I had not heard this thought until a little while ago, and I was talking to a man about, he was talking about his wife who's gone to glory, and he was referring back to the time of the funeral, and he was telling me this happened and we did that and we did this, and then we took her out and we planted her. And I thought, you did what? And it sounded a little weird, a little bizarre. And then I had a look at here in 1 Corinthians and I thought, he's right. He's right. We do plant the believer's body so that it can be raised to new life. This is following the analogy of the seed, and it's beautiful. It's wonderful. Well, we learn a few things from the seed analogy. There's one thing we learn, and that is there must be a finality. There must be a finality to this earthly body, this earthly life. It must come to an end in order for the new to come forth. Okay, and we learn something else. There is also continuity. And this is quite important here. This is quite important. The seed dies and is changed or transformed into something new. Right? What comes out of the ground after the seed's gone in is different than what went in. It is something greater, something more wonderful. And so it is with our resurrection bodies. What is raised is not the same as what was buried. It's different. But it's not so entirely different that it has no connection with what went in. You got me? You see, you don't plant an apple seed and harvest a plum tree. You don't plant wheat and harvest barley, or plant flax and harvest corn. Like follows after like. Our bodies will die, and then one day those bodies will be radically transformed and come out to be something new, but they'll still be our bodies. You got it? Okay, because there's a connection there. There's continuity.